Welcome to the Pursuing Points podcast, where it's all about the pursuit of credit card points and miles today so that you can travel the world free of charge tomorrow. And now, your host, Peter Foti.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Pursuing Points podcast. I am your host, as I've always been, Peter Foti. As excited as I am about the upcoming quarter century mark at episode 25, I'm equally as excited about today's episode. And in this, we are going to discuss credit card stacking. It is a strategy that I'm pretty sure most people probably haven't heard of. If you have, frankly, you're probably a little farther along in the whole points and miles journey than other folks. But basically, by the end of this podcast, my hope is that everybody will understand what it means to stack or combine different credit cards. And then you'll have a good idea of what some of the best options are. Before I get into that, I just want to say thank you to the folks who have reached out and asked questions and left comments. I really appreciate it. And also, listen, if you find value in this podcast or you enjoy listening to it, I would love and appreciate iTunes reviews to that effect. Those seem to really help out the show. So if you're so inclined, I would really appreciate it. But let's get to the topic at hand. So I recently wrote a post on the website. It's by far and away the longest post I've ever written. It's like 2,500 words or something like that. And I call it Credit Card Stacking, the Ultimate Guide. So this podcast is very much meant to be the companion to that guide. Or you could look at the guide as the companion to this podcast. Whatever your primary medium is, the other one can be your secondary. So basically, let's just think of it like this. The analogy that I use in the post, and it's an analogy that I somewhat like, is this idea, if you think back to, you're playing a video game and you earn some number of points more than you would have earned for doing two things simultaneously, or two things one after the other, right? So like, let's say you're playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater and you do some trick followed by some other trick, and there's no sort of gap in time, and they call that like a combo, right? So you do like a grind, and then you do a kickflip, and then all of a sudden you get 1,000 points or something like that. Basically, that's the same thing we're doing when we talk about credit card stacking or credit card combining. Is you're taking one or more financial products. They're generally going to be credit cards, but there are some exceptions that we'll talk about later. And you're taking the best of both of them or of all of them and combining them into the best redemption possible. So if this sounds if this sounds familiar, chances are that you've heard me talk about Chase and what I call the Chase Sapphire trifecta. So with Chase, if you have the preferred, you earn 2 points per dollar on dining and travel, and you can redeem them through the portal, the Ultimate Rewards portal, for a 25% bonus, or you can also transfer those points to different airline and hotel partners. The reserve is the same. The difference, of course, is that earns 3x on those same categories, and you get a 50% bonus. Those cards in and of themselves are great, and if you're someone who wants to keep it super simple, generally when people say like, "Oh, Peter, what credit card should I get?" Generally, I'll refer them to the Sapphire Reserve if they travel a lot. If they travel but less so, I think the preferred is a really good option. And of course, if they're looking for things like cashback, we'll talk about different products. But for those inclined to travel and who spend money in those categories, I think those are some of the best credit cards you could sign up for. But they're made even better when you combine or when you stack them with something like the Chase Freedom or the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Right? So the Freedom is one of those rotating category cards. So it earns 5 points per dollar on rotating categories that change once a quarter. Okay, and then the Freedom Unlimited, there's no categories. It just earns 1.5x for every dollar that you spend. Those two cards by themselves only allow you to redeem the points you're earning for cashback. You could also redeem them for travel, but at no bonus, right? So 1 point is worth 1 penny for travel, the same as it would be for cashback and the same as it is for gift cards. Where things get interesting is if you've got one of the premium cards that we talked about, like the Preferred or the Reserve, and you have a Freedom or a Freedom Unlimited, or you have both. Because what you could do in that case is you could take all the points that you're earning on the Freedom or the Freedom Unlimited, and you can actually transfer them or otherwise combine them with your reserve balance. Now, all of a sudden, your Freedom points are worth 50% more when you redeem for travel, as are your Freedom Unlimited points. So for me in my wallet, because I'm sort of bought into the Chase ecosystem, I've got the Reserve, I've got the Freedom, and I've got the Freedom Unlimited. Generally speaking, when I'm not trying to meet a sign-up bonus or I don't have some other category that can out-earn them, the majority of my spend is going on these three cards. And then what I'm doing is prior to redeeming them, I transfer all of the points into the reserves account, and then I can either transfer to a travel partner or redeem for a 50% bonus. The economy thing is something I want to touch on, right? So I think about this a lot in terms of, like your cell phone, right? These days in 2018, whether you have a Google or an Android phone, from a technical perspective, they're both pretty similar, right? They have similar tech specs. There's really not a lot that one company can do to differentiate itself from the other. The cameras are really good. The battery life is really good, et cetera, et cetera. What you're really buying today when you buy a phone is you're buying into an ecosystem, right? Do you want to be, Google, Gmail, Google Drive, Google App Store, Google Play, Google Music, all that stuff? Or do you want to be in the Apple ecosystem, right? Which is like iCloud and the App Store. And do you want to buy into the Chase ecosystem? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to want, or someday you're going to want to grow into this trifecta. If you think that there's more value in the American Express ecosystem, there's a similar stack available to you, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. The bottom line is banks, just like Apple and Google and every other company, right? They want you to spend as much money as possible, as often as possible with them and their products, right? So they want you to have their bank accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts. They want you to, sign up for your home mortgage through them, your car loans, your credit cards, every financial product that they can get you to sign up for through them makes them more money, right? Because remember, these credit card rewards are fantastic, but understand why they exist, right? Credit card companies make money off the consumer, which is you and I, every time we pay interest or other fees, annual fees, foreign transaction fees, etc. They also make money every time you swipe the card on transaction fees, right? So the more money you spend and the more often you spend it, the more money they make. So don't think about this as like some sort of scam or way to pull one over on credit card companies, right? They want you to sign up for multiple products, right? And the reason, and I talked about this in the post, is it comes down to opportunity cost, right? If you feel like using your credit card X means that you're foregoing awards on credit card Y, are you ever going to use credit card X? No, right? And so what they're trying to do is ensure that when you spend money on your Freedom, there's no opportunity cost to have spent that money elsewhere. You earned as many points as you possibly could have with the Freedom, right? And there's no other card you would have preferred to have spent that money on. Because if that happens, right, if they can ingrain that in your mind and they can put themselves in your wallet, that's how they're going to make the most money. And frankly, that's how we are going to get the best rewards. Now, before I get into some specific stacks, let me just say that this strategy isn't for everybody. There are some folks for whom simplicity is king, and they would much rather prefer to have one, maybe two cards on which to do all of their spending. They don't want to have to worry about combining balances or managing multiple cards. I totally get that. This strategy really benefits those who are a little bit more flexible and a little bit more interested or less perturbed by having to balance multiple cards, right? And also, bear in mind, it's possible to earn some really great rewards without credit cards that work together, right? Like we talk about that all the time. But the reality is, and I think that this is slowly taking shape in this industry over time, is that if you really want to see the best rewards possible, you have to have products which are connected with one another. So the first stack that I'll discuss, even though I've already kind of gone over it, Freedom Unlimited, Sapphire, Preferred, Reserve. The other card that you could throw into this is the, the Ink Business Preferred. So that's another one of those cards which earns ultimate rewards. And if you have a Freedom or a Freedom Unlimited, you can actually transfer your points to that card as well. And again, the value in doing this is you could take your points from the Freedom or the Freedom Unlimited, which typically you can only redeem for a penny per point. And you can combine them with your Preferred, Reserve, or Ink card and redeem them at a bonus, right? Again, with Preferred and the Ink, you're going to get a 25% bonus. With the Reserve, you get a 50% bonus. So I've spilled a lot of ink on this stack on the website. I've talked about this with a lot of different people, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before. So I'm going to spend the rest of the time talking about some other stacks, but just know that, if I was only going to recommend one thing to people, right, and they said it, if somebody came to me and said, I only want 2 credit cards, what are the best 2 I can have? If they're interested in redeeming points for travel, my answer is almost certainly going to be the Sapphire Reserve and the Freedom Unlimited. With the Sapphire Reserve, although the annual fee is $450, it does have the $300 travel credit. And my assumption when I recommend this to people, because they tell me they travel, is you're going to be able to make use of that. So now your net annual fee is $150, which is $55 more than the Preferred. And because it earns the 3X on travel and dining, you only have to spend a little bit more money to make up for that. The Freedom Unlimited, anything that's not travel and dining goes on that. And then we're going to combine the points before we try and redeem them. That right there is a great stack for pretty much everybody that's interested in redeeming points for travel. The Freedom is a nice cherry on top of it. I'll be honest, I don't use the Freedom a ton. In fact, it's one of those cards I may even consider canceling at some point. But Unlimited Reserve or Unlimited Preferred is a great 1-2 combination. The next stack worth talking about is the Wells Fargo Propel plus Wells Fargo Visa Signature. So for those of you who listened to the last podcast, and if you haven't, I encourage you to do so, you will remember that I signed up for the Wells Fargo Propel card. I signed up because of a couple things. 1, there's no annual fee. 2, the sign-up bonus is worth $300. 3, the bonus categories, which include things like basically travel, dining, streaming services, gas, tons of stuff, are fantastic. You also get the phone insurance, which I really appreciate, and I'm actually going to start using that. And basically what this card is going to become for me after I meet the sign-up bonus, I'm going to use it to pay for things like Spotify, Netflix, and Hulu, and I'm also going to use it to pay for the monthly cell phone bill because of the free insurance. What's interesting about this product is if you have a Wells Fargo Visa Signature card, you can actually combine the points from your Propel card into that one for a 50% bonus when you redeem it for airfare, right? So I think you're starting to see like how these different products work together, right? You can use the Propel and get 3X on all these different categories. You can use the Signature, wherever you need to meet the sign-up bonus, which right now is like 5X when you spend on gas stations and drugstores and grocery stores. And then you can combine the points when you're ready to redeem for airfare, right? So my Propel bonus goes from 30K to 45K. And, if you're someone for whom paying annual fees is not that exciting of a proposition, this is a fantastic 1-2 punch, right? Neither of these cards carry an annual fee. You get a 50% bonus from redeeming for air travel. And the 3X covers the majority of categories for a lot of people, right? Next, let's talk about, you've got Amex Everyday Preferred, Amex Premier Rewards Gold, Amex Platinum. The Amex Platinum, I'll be honest, I kind of threw that in there, although it's really not required. But this is like, you really want to be a part of the membership rewards ecosystem, which is American Express's rewards program. The Platinum card is fantastic if you travel often. You can maximize the rideshare and travel credit that they give you, and you value the lounge access. Otherwise, for $550, it's kind of a tough sell. But the Amex Everyday Preferred is a fantastic card. You get 3x on supermarkets, 2x on gas stations, 1x everywhere else. And when you use the card 30 times or more in a month, you get a 50% bonus on all of the points you earned. Combine that with your Premier Rewards Gold, which earns 3x on flights booked directly with airlines, 2x on restaurants, gas stations, and supermarkets, 1x everywhere else. You can see how like all of your bases are pretty much covered, right? And of course, the Amex Platinum is really just a 1 point per dollar card, save for when you book hotels or airfare through certain portals, you get 5x. So, when I was first getting involved with credit cards and points, I think a lot of people know the story of me and my Amex Platinum. If you don't know that story, I'll link to it in the show notes, and you should look it up because it's kind of funny. I did have a Premier Rewards Gold for a short time, but I really just never kind of got my footing with American Express membership rewards. And frankly, I've never gone back to the well. So that's not to say I never will, but at least for me right now, at this point in time, I just have a hard time recommending or using American Express cards over Chase cards, right? I think that those two are very much in competition with one another, and I just think Chase has the upper hand. Now, that being said, that's a personal thing, right? If you value these points differently than I do because of the way you travel or the way you want to redeem, it could be totally different. So keep that in mind, but just know that's a pretty interesting stack. Next, Bank of America Premium Rewards plus a Bank of America Preferred Rewards checking account, basically. So I signed up for the Bank of America Premium Rewards live on the podcast. That episode, I don't remember what number it was, but I'll try to link to it in the show notes. So that card has a $50,000 point sign-up bonus right now, which is worth basically $500 in cash rewards. It has a $95 annual fee, but it also has a $100 airline credit. That credit can be used for pretty much anything, including seat upgrades. So for me, I have this card and I'm basically keeping it around so that I can use the $100 credit. After I pay the $95 fee, I end up $5 to the good. This card earns 2 points per dollar on travel and dining, 1.5 points per dollar on everything else. By itself, it's hard to make the argument that this card really competes with something like a Sapphire Preferred. But when you stack it or you combine it with a Preferred Rewards account or set of accounts, things become different. So basically what this is that Bank of America has this idea of Preferred Rewards. It's a sort of a 4-tier system. Basically, they look at your combined balance between your Bank of America checking accounts and your Merrill Lynch or Merrill Edge investment accounts. If you have $20,000 to $50,000, you're in the gold tier, and you're going to get a 25% bonus on all credit card earnings. If you have $50,000 to $100,000, that's considered platinum, and you're going to get a 50% bonus. And if you're in platinum honors, which means you have greater than $100,000 across all of your accounts, you're going to get a 75% bonus. So, if you're someone who's at that level and you're going to get the 75% bonus, this card, for a $95 annual fee, you're going to earn 3.5 points per dollar on travel, and you're going to earn 2.62 points on all other purchases. That's pretty good when you consider the fact that the card is basically free, as long as you could take advantage of that airline credit every year. And yeah, you're earning no less than 2.62% on all spend, up to 3.5. And, although I am a Bank of America checking account, I don't have any investment accounts with them necessarily, so I don't necessarily see myself ever really making use of this. But if you're someone for whom Bank of America and Merrill Lynch are your primary financial product vendors, this is something that's super interesting and that I think you should check out. Next, U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve Visa Infinite and a U.S. Bank checking account. And now I'm going to add an asterisk here. It's not just checking account. If you have a U.S. bank credit card, my understanding is that you also qualify. So basically what this card is, and first of all, when I explain this, like really think about this. This card is awesome. But you're going to have to jump through a few hoops if you really want to get it. So it has a $400 annual fee. Okay. But it has a $325 travel credit. Okay. So the net annual fee is $75. You earn 3 points on net travel purchases and mobile wallet spend, which is Apple Pay, Google Pay, stuff like that. The sign-up bonus is currently $50K after you spend $4,500 in 3 months, which is worth $750 when you redeem $750 when you redeem it for travel. The card also offers 12 complimentary GoGo Wi-Fi passes, Priority Pass lounge access, TSA pre-check, and a global entry credit. Now, all of those perks, you could really make the argument that this is better than the Chase Sapphire Reserve, right? Your net annual fee is lower. Of course, you're going to lose some points because it doesn't have 3x on dining. But you may make up for it in other ways, some of its ancillary benefits. The catch is that you have to have you have to be a U.S. bank customer. Customer means you either have a checking account or another U.S. bank credit card. Now, the U.S. bank cards are not super popular. I personally don't have any of them. And I'm also not a U.S. bank checking account member. But I'm going to be 100% honest. In the research for this post or this podcast, this card and the card I'm going to talk about next really caught my eye. I think that these are under the radar products which take a little bit more effort to sign up for, which is frankly why they're probably under the radar. But once you've got them, the rewards are awesome, right? So look into this card. If you're someone and you don't mind putting in a little bit of legwork, right? Maybe that means opening one of these checking accounts and waiting a couple months, or opening one of their credit cards and then waiting a couple months. Like, there's an opportunity here to earn some really great rewards for not a lot of money if you're willing to put in a little bit of work. And then the last product I'm going to talk about, and listen, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the coolest stacks I know of and wanted to talk about. If you think I missed a huge one, reach out, email me, leave a comment, let me know. But this one, I'm actually super excited about this. This is the HSBC Premier World Elite MasterCard. Now, before I tell you the catch, let me read you the benefits. So the annual fee is $395, but you get $100 back on Uber and Lyft every year. You also get a $100 airline credit. So now we're down to $195. They give you an $85 TSA PreCheck credit, unlimited Boingo Wi-Fi access, MasterCard lounge key access, a 10% discount when you book your hotel or vacation homestay with Expedia, Agoda, and One Fine Stay. And your points are worth 50% more when you redeem for airfare through their portal. You earn 3x on travel and 2x on dining and 1x on everything else. So again, the net annual fee here is $195, assuming you can't take advantage of TSA PreCheck, has a host of other benefits, and its earning structure is almost on par with the Sapphire Reserve for almost half the price, about half the price. The catch, you have to be an HSBC Premier Checking customer. What that means is you basically have to have $100,000 at HSBC between your personal deposit account and investment balances. So this is very similar to like the Bank of America getting some of those maximum rewards. So those are all the stacks that I wanted to talk about. I'm about 24 minutes in, so this is perfect timing. The bottom line is this. I think you saw a trend, right? Banks want you in their ecosystem. I would venture a guess that as time goes on, we are going to see more and more financial products where to really be able to redeem all of the benefits, you're going to have to be fully invested on the platform, right? Now, once you get there, the rewards are pretty significant. The scary part is that once you get there, well, now they can change things or they can remove benefits, and you're kind of stuck in this ecosystem. And of course, this is a pretty fluid system. You can move in and out of bank accounts without too much problem. these days, especially since you can open accounts online. But just know that, right? Like, you don't ever necessarily want to be too cozy in your current setup, because if they remove all of the benefits that you were previously earning, you're kind of starting over. But I don't necessarily expect it to happen. I think that this is a super competitive marketplace right now. I think the consumers really stand to benefit the most from this. And I think that's what you're seeing, right? But banks like HSBC and US Bank, they want you to be a little bit more loyal if they're really going to open up and give you a lot of benefits. But frankly, if you're willing to put in some of the work, and of course, in the case of HSBC, it's not just about work, right? You have to have a lot of money. I don't want to overstate that or understate that. But it is exciting, right? Nobody talks about these credit cards, but the reality is, like, you could be earning a ton of value from these products today. You just have to know where to look. So basically, to close things out, a couple last things. You know, if you're someone who's new to this hobby or, points and miles, I neither recommend nor expect that you're going to go out and sign up for the Freedom Unlimited, and the Sapphire Reserve today. And frankly, I don't think that'd be a good idea. I have these cards in my wallet, but I've built up this portfolio of cards over a number of years. And I've done it slowly such that it hasn't adversely affected my credit, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good position. My advice to everybody is to understand your goals. Like, why do you want a rewards credit card? Do you want to earn cash back? Do you want it because you want to travel? If it's because you want to travel, do you want to travel in first class? Do you just want to travel in coach? And then try to figure out, where do I spend money, right? Go to mint.com and sign up for an account and see where you're spending money month over month, and sign up for the cards that are going to benefit you the most, right? Like with the Amex stack, that everyday preferred card is great if you're spending a lot of money at supermarkets and gas stations. I personally don't spend any money at supermarkets or gas stations, right? I live in New York City. So for me, that everyday preferred card, frankly, isn't super valuable. But if you spend money at supermarkets and gas stations and you don't live in New York City or whatever, that could be right up your alley, So understand where you spend money, understand what your goals are, and then, try to pick one or two of these different ecosystems, embed yourself within them, and then you'll see rewards that you might not otherwise see if you just sort of pick and choose from multiple banks. So 28 minutes, it's kind of right where I like to be. In closing, I do want to say I am running a giveaway on my Instagram account. So if you haven't followed me yet, go to @pursuingpoints on Instagram. Check out the post about the Citi Prestige card for the giveaway. Comment, like, subscribe, etc. I thank you all for listening, and I will see you for the Quarter Century Show, episode number 25, next week.